Welcome to the Social Chameleon Show, where it's our goal to help you learn, grow, and transform into the person you want to come. Today, I want to talk about top 3 things to stop doing. I know this might be a different concept. I really enjoy it. I think when you are able to trim the fat and really get rid of all these things, we're always talked about, a lot of people talk about their to-do lists and making these great to-do lists. And there's a lot of great stuff in that. But what I think we fail to do is the flip side. A lot of times seems like in society, we tend to stay away from the negative aspects, negative visualization, negative stuff, when in fact, a lot of these things can be good. This is what I want to talk about. I like this concept is when you know what you shouldn't be doing, when you know what you should stop doing, then I think it gets easier and you can have a clearer path, a clearer vision of what you should be doing. Because if you know all the things you're not doing, you're not supposed to be doing, then your list, your principles that you use to guide your thoughts and your actions, like what am I going to take on? What am I going to do? I think that gets a little bit clearer and it's easier to see and whatnot. This is a concept I think we've all kind of heard a lot about, especially if you've read a bunch of books, around either time management or getting things done. Gary Keller, the one thing he talks about that he's a proponent of just focusing on one thing, and Effective Executive. That's another good book about being, effective versus efficient. Those are great concepts. I'll link to those books if you guys haven't read them. I think they're great. I'm going to come from this angle from Jim Collins. He wrote a ton of great books, Good to Great, and How the Mighty Fall, Great by Choice, and a lot of these things. And one of my probably favorites is Beyond Entrepreneurship, and the new updated version, BE 2.0, so Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. This is where I've got this exact concept from. I really like it. I have done an episode a couple years ago, episode 38, Making Your Not To-Do List, which I pull from Tim Ferriss. He does the same concept. But like I said, I think these are very powerful. I've come to use these and adopt them. And you really find the time sucks and these different things that happen. And, I know personally what I like to do, unfortunately, is I find little things to do when I don't want to do something. The procrastination, whatever. I find other little things on my to-do list that I'll just, these are quick. This will knock this off. And then I'll get to this other thing. And I seem to find that I use that as a crutch to not do something I want to be doing or should be doing that's maybe hard or difficult or haven't thought through, whatever. So I like to use this concept. Either it's just top 3 things to stop doing, or it's making a not to-do list. I've done that. And it's fun. It's been a tremendous help to me. So this is why I want to share this concept with you guys. So let's kind of get into the meat of this here a little bit. Let me get to my notes here. So the top 3 things to stop doing or even reduce, that's also something we could be doing. Maybe you're spending a little too much time in email or on Slack or social media or whatever. And one of your items is to reduce that, because a lot of times, we have this false idea of, these things are essential. I must be on here. I must be doing this. I must be watching the news. I must be constantly on my feed. I must be constantly in my email. And these habits and these beliefs we have are hard to break. So maybe one of your items is, I'm going to reduce my time here. I'm going to reduce the amount there. So that's also a good thing to do. And you really be surprised how much time you can free up in a day when we're not being distracted. We're not having our attention pulled here this way and another. So here, let's make a list of projects that we have underway, the activities you're engaging in, then force people on the team, or maybe it's just you or your family or whatever it is, to rank order them in order of importance, what things need to get done. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, which way you want to do. Then chop off the bottom 20%. Just get rid of that. Don't freak out. You're probably not even focusing on this. You're probably not spending any money. You're probably not budgeting anything for this anyway. So it's not a big deal to kind of chop this off the bottom. You can always leave it on another list. Is it Getting Things Done? They have a great formula for different lists for different things. I have an idea inbox that I use for different ideas that pop in my head, but something I don't want to pursue now, but I want to write down and keep that and then refer back to that. And then, you spark a little thought like, hey, and then stuff is not clogging up your working memory. And it's not always in the back of your mind. Like, that thing I want to do, that thing I need to do, that thing I need to do. So bringing that off your plate and putting it aside, not necessarily throw them in the trash. Maybe you should throw them in the trash. Maybe these are time sucks or money sucks for your company. a lot of people, familiar with the 80-20 principle, 80% of your revenue is from the 20%. We know 80% of your crop yield is from, 20% of the crop, and these types of things like that. So when you're able to chop the stuff off the bottom, you're able to free up team members. Maybe you're able to free up capital. You're definitely able to free up mind space and brain space. So don't get scared or don't, I got to do these things. Just move them off to the side, get your priorities, how you're going to do. Then you can start allocating things properly. And then as you knock the things off, maybe you want to revisit those things at the bottom, or maybe they've taken care of themselves because you've knocked off items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like, well, these are all done already because we did these other things, or we found them irrelevant because we've done these other things, or we found them, not to be worthwhile. The market doesn't want them, whatever it be. Don't be afraid for this. Chop that bottom percent off. You can always come back to it later. Put it somewhere else if you need. If you feel a little apprehensive about it, you'll probably forget about it and you'll never go back to that. And a lot of times, like you move places, you move from one house to another, you have all these things in your first house and you pack it all up. You're like, I'm going to need all this stuff. And then boxes wind up being in the garage. You're like, I never opened this box in 6 months. There's nothing in here I could possibly need. And that's that concept, so don't be afraid to pack it up and just put it to the side. And then what Jim talks about a lot of, if you're not familiar with his books, is he talks about the, Fox and the Hedgehog. So what he says here is we should stop doing anything that doesn't fit with the hedgehog. So if you're not familiar with the hedgehog, I got to keep referring back to this. Sometimes these words get a little interesting, but here's the hedgehog concept, a quick little thing so we can follow along. The hedgehog concept is developed in the book Good to Great, which I highly recommend. A simple crystalline concept that follows from deep understanding about the intersection of 3 circles. So if you're familiar with the Venn diagrams, you have a circle, and usually they're like a triangle shape, and then they all overlap into the middle. So in these 3 circles, 1, what you are deeply passionate about, 2, what you can be the best in the world at, and 3, what best drives your economic or resource engine. Transformations from good to great come about by a series of good decisions made consistently with the hedgehog concept, supremely well executed, accumulating one upon another over a long period of time. I will link to this for you guys. I'll link to a diagram so you can really see this. This can apply in a lot of things, not just, in your work, but also in your life too. The things you're deeply passionate about, coupled with something you can be the best of the world. Maybe the best in your community, maybe the best in your neighborhood, maybe the best in your city. That's a big thing. If you're the best in your city at cabinet making, or you're in the best in your city at knitting or whatever, that's something, maybe you can make that your full-time thing, or maybe you can, really make this into something. If you have a bigger or grander dream, go for the world. What would it be like to be the best in the world at the thing you're good at there? And then the different economic or resource engines you need to drive that. So I'll link to this so you guys can really dig down into that. But when going back to what I was kind of saying earlier, when you have this hedgehog concept, you have this framework to start, you have a solid base, a solid foundation, you can know what you should and shouldn't be doing. It's easy to make these decisions. It's easy to say, this doesn't fit in with my hedgehog concept. This doesn't fit in with my core foundation of things. I'm going to say no to this. I'm going to not say this. I'm not going to do this project. Maybe you pass this project on to a competitor or somebody that say, hey, we have this great idea, not something that fits with us, but we thought of you, and you can pass it on. Maybe you can partner, maybe you can get a little something or whatever, or just let it go and let it be something that goes out into the world that you don't have to focus on. But that's okay. When you understand these things, you're able to do these things. You're able to pass these things off. You're able to really hone down and you really get very crystal clear and very focused on the very few things we should be doing. And that's the point of this exercise, is to understand, if I stop doing these things, I'll have way more time and I'll free up way more energy to focus on the things that I really need to be doing, the things that really are pushing my business forward, my career forward, my business forward. That's the thing here. So there's a good little segment in Tim Ferriss's podcast. I'll link to that. I believe it's 483. It'll be in the show notes for you guys, where he talks a little about this personally. And there's some great ideas there. As I'm doing this exercise too, I'm always looking to reevaluate to see what's going on. My stop-do list that I need to do is number 1, skipping workouts. That is the thing that plagues me a lot. And I'm committed to not skipping workouts. So that's always the one thing, it's always scheduled on my calendar. It's always the thing. But when something's going on or my schedule gets delayed or that's always a thing that I always push off. I always skip. I'll do it later this afternoon. Never happens. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll double down. Well, on a rest day, I'm not going to do a rest day. I'm going to add in and whatever. All this mental gymnastics I do never works out. So that's something it's on my stop-do list. I'm going to stop skipping workouts. I know the benefits of working out. I know that I'll be more productive. I know I'll have more longevity. I know I'll sleep better, which I'll be more focused. I know all the reasons I should be working out. But that mental gymnastics, like, well, I can skip this, and that's on my stop-do list. Another thing that I identify with myself is I don't finish things. I have a great idea. I start it up. I get 50, 40, 80%, 90% done. And then I'm like, well, that's good enough for now. I got something else I need to be doing. And then I don't finish these projects. So I've got a ton of projects that are sitting around that are never finished. Maybe never even started. You get these annual emails, all these domains and stuff I own, all these things I own for my different business stuff that I've never finished. Some domains I had a great idea. I was I'm going to do this, I'm going to build this, and I'll do that, or whatever. And then here we go, another year again. I see the domain renew. I never did nothing but buy the domain. So that is plastered on my computer monitors. Every day I look, it just says finish. That's my overarching mantra for the year. That's my word of the year. I'm trying that this year. I'm going to do this. I have it on my whiteboard here. Like I said, I have it on my monitor. It just says finish. That's my thing this year. So I didn't wait till the new year to start. When I started thinking about these things towards the end of November and December, I started kind of gearing up. I started thinking about these different types of things. What am I going to do? What am I going to present to you folks? What am I going to do for clients and customers, stuff like that? How am I going to, adjust for the new year coming forward? I take those last few weeks of the year to reflect and do these things. So that was, what was the biggest thing that was holding me back or creating some type of angst. And I always had this nagging feeling. There's these things, I want to do, these books I want to read, these articles. I got a pile of articles I never finished reading. So I spent the last few weeks of the year finishing. And man, did that just feel so good. I knocked out a bunch of documentaries I wanted to watch. I plowed through a bunch of articles I wanted to watch, all these things. And after I was done, I was like, what was I waiting for? What was I pushing these things off for? And I had no good answer except for on to the next thing. I'll put this later when I'll make time. And that's a thing we fall into is I'll make time for this later. I'll do this tomorrow. First of all, ain't none of us know we're going to wake up tomorrow. And that's something that's hard to think about. But once you kind of get around it and you understand that momentum mori, tomorrow's never granted, we never know what's going to happen. And, you come home. I come home, a few weeks ago, my neighbor's house burnt down. I guarantee they didn't plan on that. Like, hey guys, I got some stuff done. The house is going to burn down on Thursday. So let's wrap this things up. Things come out, things happen. So let's not take these for granted. Let's not stop pushing off things till tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next quarter, whatever. Let's start doing these things. That's what that's my overarching theme for this year is finishing things up. And like I said, the thing so far I finished up the end of last year and so far through the beginning of this year, it just feels so good. This weight is lifted off. These thoughts in your head, like, oh, that thing, those are gone. And, it frees up that working memory. It frees up that ability for your brain. It's not always on these things. I really like that. And the last thing I have on my stop-do list is stop acting like an amateur. So there's a great, I think, oh boy, what is it? Farnham Street. They got some good stuff on amateurs versus pro. I'll link that in the show notes for this episode. You guys can read through that. Great things. But really where I got this from, and I really started thinking about this was Stephen Pressfield. He wrote a really famous book, The War of Art. If you haven't read that, it's a great, I highly recommend it. But in the War of Art, there's a section about being a pro versus amateur. So he's taken that concept down. He's put it into, it's a pretty quick little book or whatever, but it's great. You really get to think about all these things. What are pros doing? What are amateurs doing? What are you doing? What am I doing? So I'm doing things sometimes like an amateur would do, instead of doing and acting like a pro. If you guys watch the documentary on Michael Jordan, the Bulls and stuff, watch how Michael Jordan shows up every day. That's what pros do, and there's days where I'm not showing up because I'm acting like an amateur. So that's on my stop. I'm gonna stop acting like an amateur. I'm gonna act like a pro. So I got my list of things that I do that are amateur, and I'm gonna turn those into things what pros do. Pros show up every day. Pros put in the work. Pros don't skip workouts. Pros don't do these things. So that is my third thing: is no more amateur behavior, professional behavior. Act like a pro athlete would, or whatever these different things. So that's what I have to do. Also, what I've done is on my calendar, I have a quarterly revisit of these things. Things change, priorities change, the world changes, situations change. Maybe you don't really know what's going on in your life, and you come up across something like, whoa, this is where I want to guide my life. And if you're not taking the time to evaluate these things, looking at these things, like we said in the beginning, what are you going to chop on these things? Make a list of projects underway and activities engaged. If you're not constantly looking at these things, at least quarterly, if not monthly, maybe some organizations, or sometimes you want to look at these things weekly. Are we on track? What are we doing? I've got a whole list in my calendar, a calendar event. Every quarter I go and I review all the things. What's going on? Is there, expenses that we're no longer using as a company or business that need to be chopped? These reoccurring things are happening. What's going on? Constantly revisiting things, constantly. What is our mission? What is the things? Are we, doing things that are in line with these things? Sometimes we, start to drift off course. That's okay. We got to just nudge ourselves back on. If we're constantly reevaluating these things, we can constantly push ourselves back on course. Boats and planes and everything, they drift off course a little bit. But if you're monitoring them often enough, it's a small little move back on. 1, 2, 3 degrees off, back on course. 3 degrees off, back on course. 5 degrees off, back on course. Versus at the end of the year, you're like, holy crap, we're 87 degrees off course. That's a huge, hurdle to get back where you were. Versus if you're constantly correcting, you've got to evaluate that for yourself. That's what this is about. What are you needing to stop doing? What are you evaluating? It's not about what I'm doing. It's not about what Tim Ferriss or Jim Collins or Will Smith or whoever these guys are. It's not about what they're doing. That's understanding what you need to stop doing. It's not about just getting somebody else's list or morning habits or routines and just saying, well, if I just do this, if I have, oatmeal with 4 raisins on it, I'm just going to be like this person. That's not what it's about. You got to say what works for me, what's going on in my life, what are my priorities, what's happening, and pushing these through and adapting into yourself and adapting your situation. These are great ideas. Take some, don't. I hope it sparks something. That's, like I said, this is the point. And then, on the converse here, once you have these things you should stop doing, I challenge you to come up with the 3 things for this year, this quarter, whatever, that you need to do, that you need to accomplish, that you need to start doing. What is on your list? What are on your things that you're not doing? So come up with the stops and then come up with the starts or the to-dos, those top 3. I find that it's nice to have a large overarching theme or bigger project instead of having these, little small things like hey, this is an organization or this is a division or whatever. These are our top 3 things we're going to accomplish this quarter, this, half year, whatever it is for you guys, what works for you and what you've got going on where you're at. These are the top 3 things we're going to do. Let's call it this quarter. And so you have, 400 more customers. We're going to cut expenses by 13%, and we're going to hire 10 new people. And then you have those 3 things. And then you can take each of those and say that in order to accomplish each of these, what do we have to do? And then you can start breaking down into smaller things. Instead of having all these little small little tasks, and sometimes it makes it hard to understand where you're headed versus we have our destination, check. Now, like Google Maps or whatever it is, it's like you put in a destination and then it says, hey, you're going to start off, you're going to leave your driveway, you're going to turn right, and then you're going to go down the street 3 miles, you're going to turn left. That's what you need to do too. So we have our overarching destination, and then you start starting with the end in mind. This is also another great concept if you're not familiar with it. And then you can back all the way down to where you are now. And then now this is where we're going to go, but this is where we're at. And then you can start building each step. You can assign it to different people and different organizations, budgeting, all these different types of things. So there we go with that. I hope this really is a big help for you guys. I love this exercise. I love doing these types of things. I love discovering new ways to become more effective. And I will link to all the things that I talked about here so you guys can get on, you guys can get going, you guys can get moving through. and making this new year, even if you've stopped a lot of things or you've gone off the rails, whatever, that's okay. You can start over at any moment. Doesn't have to be the beginning of a week. Doesn't have to be the beginning of a new year. Doesn't have to be the beginning of a new month. I mean, a corner. You start over at any moment. And if you fail and fall over, it's okay. Guess what? Same thing applies. You can start over again, any and every moment. So don't forget that. Don't get discouraged. Don't get down. No, you can always start over and you can make adjustments. And for the challenge for this episode, I need you to pick a day to start to make this list. So you say, write down however you do things. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm going to make my 3 stop doings for this year. You need to commit to a time and date, put it in your calendar and commit to that. That's where this stuff begins. Oh yeah, I'll do that later. I'll get on that tomorrow. Guess what happens? It doesn't happen. Trust me. We all play these games. We all play these mental gymnastics. Don't do it. Put a date, commit to that time, commit to that date. Do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. So that's what I want you guys to do. The final thoughts here, wrapping this up. Knowing what to do or stop doing, knowing, these not to do things, these stop doing things, I think is more important than knowing what to do. Like I said earlier, because when you know what you shouldn't be doing, it's very easy to know what to be doing. So take that in mind. That's a key, I think, lesson from this thing is understanding the difference and the clarity I think it brings of what I shouldn't be doing. Makes it very easy to know what I should be doing, what I should be saying yes to. You're able to say no to the things that don't matter and don't move you forward on your goals and things. You have the space and the time to say yes to the things that matter. There we go. And the best way to help and support the show and to help your community, help your colleagues and neighbors and friends and everybody is to share this. Try to share this with at least 2 people. Get together. You guys can come up with ideas. Maybe if you bounce some things off of each other, like what are your top 3 to do things? I only got 2. I can't think of a third one. I mean, some ideas. This can help bring your division together, your group together, your team together, whatever it is, your family. It could be a great thing to, hey fam, what are 3 things that we should stop doing? That really could, I might have to evaluate from my own family. I never really thought about that. What are the 3 things we can do to strengthen our family unit? What are the 3 things we can do to strengthen our team? Let's think about these things. In between shows, you can catch us all week long at Social Chameleon Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hey, also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, if you're new here. Check us out on your favorite podcast app, or if you want to see the video version, you can head over to YouTube. Check us out there, subscribe there. And for everything I talked about here today, past episodes and links for everything, check out the socialchameleon.show. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and transforming this person you want to become.